So Glenn, you're going on holiday on Wednesday, right?
Yes, today.
Today. Give me, yes. Oh, yes, because we're time travelers. Give me in 3 words what a Glenn Fisher holiday in Norway looks like.
Is hyphenated words count as one?
Hyphens are acceptable to me.
Right, so we'll have post-rock, relaxation, exploring.
Good stuff. Let's talk about the copy.
Yes.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Yes, let's talk about some copy. I've got an email, and I will read the email. We've had a couple of bits in from Tijani, is the person who sent it in, I believe. And they are an aspiring writer from Morocco, and they would like some advice, some thoughts on a piece of email copy that they've written, and they want us to, they're happy for us to be ruthless about it. So they are learning. And I will read the email copy for you. It's an email subject line that reads, ethical profits from a legal hoax. Okay, and the email starts, dear reader, it's a hoax. It's 100% legal, and it's facilitated by 7 millionaire bureaucrats working for a powerful agency. Inside investors who leveraged this hoax in the past recessions have raked in record profits, while regular investors got wrecked. According to this former FBI and Pentagon advisor, this hoax is being pulled again, and those in the know are getting their ducks in a row to make a killing. As the coming recession unfolds, what exactly are they doing, and what cues can you take from them? This presentation provides the answers. Best wishes, and then the sign-off.
Do you want to know the best thing about that?
Yeah.
Well, see if you can guess. This is the second time this has happened in Fix history. The first time was earlier in the year when we spoke to Joshua Lee Henry.
You wrote the promo?
I wrote the promo that lift copy.
There you go. Let me ask you then, how can you tell? What specific piece of detail can you tell?
7 millionaire bureaucrats.
That's not the bit that I thought you might say.
Yeah, I know it's that. So this is, yeah. Now, the promotion did not work.
Good.
So,
it's a strong start for any promotion, but
yeah.
we'll explore that in a minute.
Well, I think it's important actually that if I tell you that I wrote it, I also tell you that it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because I hate people that pretend A, copy is easy, or B, just because you've been doing it a long time, everything you do works.
Well, let me zoom into a question then, seeing as this is your thing, because it might tie up with the my biggest objection to this email.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest objection to it is the word hoax and the way it's used in this. I'll put that on the shelf for a minute. How does the hoax link to the headline complex and the lead of this promo?
I actually think there were 2 headline complexes, one that was about a hoax and one that was about 7 millionaire bureaucrats. And they were 2 ideas for a reason.
Right, okay.
So the idea that the idea here is that it's a very strong, clear editorial idea. By that I mean it was legitimately from an investment expert who said this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
The issue with the idea, I'm going to talk about why I don't think the copy worked, as in why my copy didn't work, why the idea didn't work. Then we'll get back to the left note.
Yeah.
Just because that seems like the most honest thing for me to do, rather than just move past my failures. No, let's put them under the spotlight.
Let's focus on your failures.
Yeah, we should. No, we actually should, Glenn.
I know.
Not just because you find it amusing. Not just because I'm sick to death of seeing stuff from copyrighted experts online who act like it's easy. Pissed me off. So it's not easy. So I'm going to describe the reasons that I think the copy didn't work. Obviously, as I was writing it, I didn't really think this. Maybe I was too close to it. But the core idea is that companies are allowed to misrepresent their financial statements, legally allowed to, okay? They're allowed to put out a set of financial statements that look one way when the reality is something different. That's what the franchise is built around. So it's about seeing through that accounting sleight of hand, okay?
Yeah. So that's where so I'm going to just pare it back slightly to foreshadow the element of the lift note itself. That's where you're getting the legal hoax from, the idea that it's a hoax and it's legal. We'll hold that.
Yeah. In fact, it is facilitated by a group of people that run the Accountancy Standards Board. There are 7 people in charge of that board. They're all millionaires, so it's they're the faceless bureaucrats. That on its own, I think, is actually quite a good starting place for copy. That what you are presented with is false. That there's another set of numbers out there that are far more accurate, and that in seeing those numbers, you'll get a better picture of whether a company is succeeding or failing, and you can make better decisions off the back of that. That kind of works. That's the kind of core of the franchise. Mm-hmm. Where it maybe got a bit complicated, well, there's 2 reasons I would say, was that the idea was that they were going to make things look bad, but actually you should buy them because they were going to make things look worse than they were. They were going to use these rules to make things in the markets look terrible, when actually they won't be terrible. The markets sort of panic as a result of that, and it creates a buying opportunity. That's the editorial idea. Even explaining it to you there, it's 2 things, isn't it? They're going to make things look one way, but they'll actually be the other way. So you have to go in 2 directions, right? Copy never works like that. We know this. We know this. Like, I knew that while I was writing it, but I sort of tried to persevere. I actually thought maybe this 7 faceless bureaucrats thing could just push me through, because I thought that was a cool hook. I still think that's true. So the problem was that it was emotionally confused, probably. It will look one, but the nature of a hoax implies that something will look one way but be another. So there are already 2 sides. And then the deeper idea was that, does anyone really care about accountancy standards? Probably not. The problem is the editorial is brilliantly built around accountancy standards. You can't get away from that. I as a copywriter don't want to say, I know your product's about this, but I don't find that interesting, so I'm going to write about something else, because I sort of think, no, it's kind of my duty to try and find you customers that care about this as much as you do. So you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. But so there were some contradictions in the idea.
Right. Okay.
That I think have been carried over into the lift copy a little bit. I do think, so talking about the lift copy itself, just that opening, I mean, I can't remember the subject line, but the subject line was a bit of a mind bender. But the opening line said something like, it's a hoax, but it's 100% legal. I'm already confused. Those are 2 such big concepts. It's really difficult to wrap your head around.
It is. So the subject line was something like, and I'm not going to look, because I think it's important to remember, especially in email copy and like headlines and stuff. You need to be able to remember stuff. And if you can't remember it, that's actually a good sign. We talk about like deleting and then trying to rewrite what you've written. But it was something to do like ethically profit from something illegal.
Oh, ethical profits. Yeah, that's contribution as well.
So that's tight. It's difficult. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but what it means is that's your entire thing. Like you've got to riff with that then. Like ethical ethically profiting from something that's illegal or whatever. Like that is all it has to be. It's like if you're talking about fracking or something and people don't like fracking, like it's all about that. You can't go into any other idea. You can still do it, but then you've got that's your idea. If you're then going into this, so then it kind of works in the subject line for me a little bit though, because it's at least that's reduced by the nature of the subject line, that you can only see that. But then when you've got this, it's a hoax and it's 100% illegal. The problem I thought was not so much, it's interesting to hear your take, your like the conception of the idea and stuff. But I think the problem here slightly is still not necessarily the problem of the promo itself, but saying hoax for me is such a loaded statement that you need to explain what the hoax is, because is a hoax even illegal? Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like the fact that you're saying it's a hoax, which has already got so many questions, and then it's legal, and it's like, well, is a hoax illegal or whatever? Like, I don't even know, because I need to know what the hoax is. So it's this idea that you're confusing. You're already putting so much stuff on your reader to go, what? Hey, and it's that element that in a lift note. So I'm coming just to the lift note here. You need to be aware of that. You need to pick out. So even if it's a flawed promo, which we're saying it is, because you wrote.
Well, it's not flawed. It just didn't.
It just didn't work. Yeah.
Didn't work.
In that which sense it's flawed.
Yeah.
We're saying because it had maybe the number two, too complicated an idea. So there was two quite difficult to explain ideas.
Yes.
Which is hard anyway. And then putting them together, it's like, all right, we're in a problem. But even so, I would still come back to the lift note. When you're looking at the promo, when you're looking for your lift, we spoke about it before. I think we were speaking on an Academy call recently which is why it's in my head. But you can only pick out one thing from that promo to amplify. Therefore, you need to probably pick out the hoax element. If you were telling me that promo as you just did then, it's like, all right, what is that hoax? Tell me about that. Like, dig deeper into that. Or you can say, like, there's something illegal going on, or there's something legal. There's a legal
manipulation
or like catch or something in the system. That's interesting. But I think that's the problem there, is that if it's something that's illegal, but it's being carried out illegally, it's being carried out legally, that in itself is interesting. What is the manipulation? What's going on there? But the fact that it's a hoax as well, that's what complicates that for me, I think.
Okay, so just think about that opening sentence. It's a hoax. There's no people in that sense. It's kind of not enough. Sorry, my kids have just got home from school, so it's going to get noisy in a second, perhaps. Or they'll appear on the trampoline. I don't know grammatically, but there's no sort of subject or object. It's a hoax is a bit of an arresting. What? It's kind of not enough there. So if you were going with hoax, you might I'd find another hoax. Didn't Donald Trump say that something was a hoax in
his entire life is a hoax? But yeah, I think he did.
He claim there was let's say he did.
Didn't he say COVID was a hoax or something?
Or the election result was a hoax or whatever. I can't remember. But let's say he did, for the sake of argument, just because that's where my brain went. You might start, and it doesn't actually matter, it's because it's a sentence construction point I'm going to make, but you might start with the opening line. In 2020, Donald Trump claimed that millions of people were duped by a hoax in the election system, leading to the election of Joe Biden. I think a similar hoax is about to play out in the stock market. This time round, it won't lead to the election of President Joe Biden, but it will dupe millions of people into doing the wrong thing with their money. So it's about almost giving that idea. Hoax has a sort of center of gravity to it. It has some weight. That's why the copywriter who wrote this is attracted to that word, because it has some punch to it.
Yep.
But we can't punch and then just punch with legal straight away. We've got I riffed that out in, say, 4 lines of copy.
Yeah.
We might then be able to say it's not illegal. In fact, you can do this. Hoax will unfold in plain view and in complete compliance with the law. It's slower, but actually allows me to digest the concept of a hoax and then be ready for the legality of it. Right now, it's just bang, bang, and it's like, whoa, too much, too quick.
It comes back. I hit up on it the other day, but I thought about, if you think about your copy as a conversation, and between each line that you write, each line is a statement to the reader. And that statement, if it's doing something, if it's like making a promise, if it's painting a picture, if it's offering proof, if it's doing a bit of push, it's inviting the reader to have a response to that statement. So if you say it's a hoax, your reader's going to go, what is?
Yeah.
So if you imagine that your reader responds to that sentence, and I'm talking about imagine it in a very literal way, like you were sat there with them in front of you and go, it's a hoax. What would your reader say? They'd go, what is? So you'd go, but then if you reply with, it's legal.
Yeah, they haven't thought.
What is? So now they're asking, what is and why is it legal? Why are you telling me? These are big questions. Like there's already other questions I could be asking. Yeah. What's the hoax? Why is it important that you're telling me? Who are you? What's happening? I've got too many questions on that one line. So I need to, as the copywriter, think, right, well, they're going to ask me what is a hoax. So if I'm not answering that, I need a very good reason not to answer that. I certainly don't want to come back with something completely different and another idea to add all these other questions on. So you've got to think, that's right, what is that unanswered question that I am provoking in the reader? And that's what we talk about. I realize this was useful because I realize we advise this a lot, especially to our academy members, to slow down their copy. They want to just pile it all on because we're told that copy's got to hit and like get attention. And how do you get attention? You say loads of stuff. But actually, we always end up saying, well, slow down and commit to that idea, explain that idea. What I realized is this way of thinking about it actually allows you to break that down and see it, why you have to do that. Because you are provoking your reader. And every time you provoke your reader, you're creating more questions for them. Not necessarily more objections. We tend to think in objection form. But it might not be an objection. It's just, oh no, I've got a question. Like, why is that? Or like, take me through that, please, sir. I need to know more. And so think about that reader responding to it. And as an exercise, I'd suggest, certainly to this writer, because I've looked at some of the other stuff they've sent in, write it as what would the reader answer to that? Like do it in grey underneath. And then you'll start to see, right, so you've got to answer that question. Then you do that. Then delete what the reader would see and see what your promo looks like. It will look like a much more coherent and flowy, so technical term, flowy piece of copy, because it will be like, all right, this is the thing. And that's why we have well and likes. And this is what I said in there, because it's kind of ghosting. It's the ghost of the reader going, all right, I'm leading you on to that next bit kind of thing.
Well, I would call it like, by the way, I think that's a great exercise. We could perhaps do that in an episode. Try and write something. I would call it like idea pacing. So we talk about the pace of the writing, which is usually a sentence level thing, the flow. But what we're talking about here is the speed at which an idea has to sort of unspool. And in the long copy world, particularly the financial world, we are dealing with complicated ideas. You know, ideas that you cannot explain in 30 seconds. That don't make sense if you try and explain them in 2 minutes. We used to get people writing, why can't you explain this in 2 minutes? It's like, would you, because it's a complicated idea about how the world really works, that is both predictive and explanatory. Would you say the same thing to Stephen Hawking? Would you say, why can't you explain this in 2 minutes? Well, because it's complicated. Maybe it's worth spending time on. I'm not comparing myself to, well, I am actually. But you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Complex ideas about how the world works will take time. And actually, idea pacing is something that all new copywriters tend to struggle with. The first draft they write tends to not say anything for 8 pages because it's all waffle, copy, promise. Then they struggle. They go the other way usually. The next thing is like, you've told me the whole thing in a page. And they're like, oh, how do I do it? It's like, yeah, you just got to learn that, okay, you introduce this idea and you allow that idea to breathe a little bit. And once the reader is happy with the concept of a hoax, maybe you introduce the stock market or the legality or bring them back in. I'm going to just move the conversation along one and just give some advice that I have given before, but is relevant to this piece of copy, which is when you're submitting spec copy for email, I think you need to be less route one. What do I mean by that? Assume that the copywriter who wrote the promotion has written between 10 and 15 emails for that piece of copy already. They've done those more obvious direct ones. And then maybe they're struggling to find new angles. That's your opportunity. That's both your challenge and your opportunity, because you can solve a problem for the writer, the publisher, the head of copy, whoever it is you're dealing with, by saying, well, you've already done the first 10, but here's another 10 that you haven't thought of yet. They're a bit different. They have a twist on it. That is how you can get into their, I won't say into their good books, because it doesn't quite work like that, but you can solve a problem they've got, which is they need more hooks. They need more ways into that story. Show them that you're the person that can solve that problem, and you'll find that they'll be much more receptive to some form of ongoing relationship. If you show that you can competently write a direct route 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 way into that promotion, you'll get them going, yeah, this person can write, but I already have those lift notes. So you need to try and surprise them a little bit, and you need to just try and think a bit differently. So, there's a guy I work, the publisher at Paradigm Press, Matt Inslee. When something works, like 2 or 3 times I've been on calls with him where he's like, right, write me the JFK one. Which doesn't mean put JFK in, but it's like, write me the weird one. Like, write me one about aliens. Write me one about King Henry VIII or whatever. Like, approach it like that. So when you're writing on spec from the outside, I think you need to go straight to there and show people that creativity and that problem-solving ability, that abstract thought, because otherwise you run the risk of being like getting a nod from someone saying, yeah, they can write, but there's nothing that I need to publish here.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest 2 things. First of all, because I know a lot of people who listen to The Fix are in that specific position where they're looking to get like email copy as a pitch tool to like attract copy chiefs. Instead of sending us the email copy, maybe, or if you identify in yourself, actually I'm doing that, I'm writing Route 1 emails. Instead of you can write the email if you feel confident, but if not, send us 10, and it does require this, unfortunately, it's a lot of ideas. Send us 10 different ideas, just a paragraph, like literally 3 lines saying, what if I wrote it around the idea of space animals arriving on the thing, and that's how you got to this thing. Weird little ideas, and we'll critique the ideas and give you that kind of angle. That might just give us a different way in. Feel free to do that. But also, Nick, I wanted to ask in a certain way, without making it too, it's too boilerplate or whatever. But would you almost advise that you almost, when you in that same spirit of like submitting new ideas to copy chiefs, you almost want to write a lift note that has apparently nothing to do with the promo. Not nothing to do with the promo, but it wants to be like, it wants to start in a different place to where.
Yeah, maybe I would think about it like this. Let's say you're going to submit 3. Let's say each one should have a further degree of separation from, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't go route 1, but the first one could be a little bit straighter, a little bit more like what you've seen. It needs to be different enough, clever subject line, whatever, but it could be a bit straighter. Now go 1 degree of separation. Now you're on JFK. Right. Okay, cool. Now you start the next one on the moon. Do you know what I mean? Now, you have to be a good writer to be able to do that. So the risk is that you get it wrong and they're like, what is this? So that's your risk. But to be honest, I don't know how much being safe is going to get you anyway. Yeah, like I actually think if you want to go more route 1 and down the safer route, you're better off writing a headline and lead and saying, I could re-headline this like this. You can go a bit straighter there because the skill set required to write that piece of copy is a more challenging one, and it's held in higher esteem, higher value. By the way, that would always be where I would recommend people start. We're working with someone in the academy who's writing headlines and leads, and they are getting him noticed in the industry more than emails. But yeah, I also say if that's where you are, if you're at email, stick with email. I'm not, but just keep that in mind.
Although if we think about that academy student, it's their ideas that are the strength. That's what's getting them through it. The writing is kind of, I wouldn't say it's arbitrary, but it's just kind of, it's secondary to the fact that the initial idea, even though it was mucky, on 2 occasions we've seen it with that copy, it's muckily presented. That's even a phrase.
Yeah, it's fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a good idea. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, there's something in that idea. You've managed to get to the weird idea that I might not have thought about. That's the talent that you're trying to evidence in these things. And if you just pick out from the headline lead of a promo, you might not necessarily be able to evidence that skill.
Yeah, it's so like, say like the JFK thing, right? You couldn't just say, okay, this is about an FBI an analyst, right? JFK hated by the FBI. You couldn't just say a random connection like JFK. Some people think it was the FBI that was behind the JFK assassination. A man who works for the FBI but has never assassinated anybody is this guy. Like, you have to dig into the story and find the point where maybe there's a connection, and maybe there isn't, but maybe it's Kennedy went on holiday or owned the holiday house in the same place as one of the 7 millionaires, and that's the connect. Maybe that's true. Maybe one of them lives in I want to say Cape Canaveral, but it's not that. It's called Cape Cod, isn't it?
No, you're thinking Cape Canaveral as in
the place that the Kennedys have their holiday. Yeah, no. I'm thinking of where he had his,
he lives in a spaceship, Kennedy. He's still alive. He was never killed. That's the
point being, what you're really demonstrating is an ability to engage with the idea, to dig and research and find that cool little edge and then write that up. And you can't really teach that bit. You can help someone develop that skill to dive and find the thing. If they can do that and express it half right, you can take them the other half. You can take that idea and say, let's polish. Here we go. You can't teach someone to do that first bit. So you want to demonstrate, I would say, your ability to commit and engage with the idea and find that angle. That's what we're talking about here. It's hard. It's really hard. It's, God, he's telling me I've got to write something about the moon landing. Like, well, yeah, if I told you had to, how would you do it? You know what I mean? You could change moon landing for Elvis, Great Wall of China, Himalayas, Henry VIII, William the Conqueror. You know what I mean? You could mix it up however much you like. You could spin a wheel with them, but you're trying to find that cool angle that nobody else will have found, because that's what someone's going to pay you for, that ability to dive and pick up that idea.
Tell you what, in a gross upsell to what we do. No, in all seriousness, you can use us, but even if you don't, my point remains. The best way to learn to do that is to riff off other people. So find yourself some copywriters. As I say, we can upsell to join the Fix Accelerator, join the Academy or whatever. You don't have to though. That's just, I know there's people there to talk to, but you need to find yourself a group of writers who you can do that. We had a call with some editors, a publisher, what have you, just today. We're spitballing ideas. And you go, right, I'm going to hold this bit in my head, and then you're going to fire that bit back, and then you're going to back and forth and do that stuff. That's how you learn to that's how you give yourself the space to start doing that deep dive. So you need other copywriters. So go on, use LinkedIn for good for once, and say, hey, would you like to be in a small group with me? And we're going to pitch some ideas back and forth. That's one way of doing it for free. Or you can join our group and start engaging conversations. But make sure you do. Don't sit there isolated by yourself, writing lift notes, hoping that you'll somehow crack the whip. You have to get other people involved in your thinking.
So I'm looking forward to reviewing email copy that's about JFK, the moon landing, the Great Wall of China, Elvis. In fact, if you can get all 4 of those into a lift note, I'll tell you, that's too many ideas. But
Glenfisher fact, strangest thing I've ever sold, Elvis's hair.
Yeah, that's true as well, isn't it? But just, it would be progress for us, because this is not the first time we've reviewed email copy and made that point, which suggests that message isn't quite getting out there. It's no one's doing anything wrong. It's just you're not necessarily looking at it from the point of view of the publisher who's done those lifts already. So it would be great to start reviewing some copy that really does. You have to risk being a 1 to get a 10. What would, if you could take the route 1, you're going to be 6 or 7 on the scale, and it's really hard to get noticed.
Someone help me. must be telling people to write lift notes as a way of getting jobs.
I think they probably are, and there is a logical standpoint for why you might do that. But I think the next step is actually thinking about the fact that if there's something very similar to that lift note already out there, that's not as impressive as the one that's slightly rougher, but has that creative hook on it. So we should try and get that message out there. But I'd like to start seeing some copy to review that challenges us on the other end of the scale, which is like, wow, how do we get this to fit a bit more with the original idea? How do we bring them back? Because that's more fun for me. So let's sign off there with the request to send in the stuff that might be mad, but might be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely do that. And please try and highlight more of Nick's failings.
What happened then was, as I was talking, Glenn went into holiday mode. I saw the shutters go down behind his eyes, and he thought to himself, yeah, just do that.
In the mosh pit, rocking out. Ruth's just going, can we go now? This is awful music. Awful music. And there's an Edvard Munch exhibition around the corner. Why are we in this gig situation? But
well, let's wrap up there, and you can review Norway, the country, for us in next week's episode of The Fix.
In 7 words or less. That's my challenge. We'll see you next time. Good job.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.